Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're live. We're in the studio, so get involved in the chat and the comments. Loads of stories to go through this morning. Lots of them focusing on Marcus Rashford, on these crunch talks with Ruben Amorim as well. Not Marcus Rashford having crunch talks with Ruben Amorim. The talks between Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ruben Amorim. So make sure you are hitting that like, share and subscribe button. Loads of people in the chat already. Jacoya Trot, Santa Notch, Real Recognises Real, Colin Coupleditch. Let's talk about these crunch talks then, because apparently these were planned. I think we've got a tweet from Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic. I can't see that on my screen, by the way. He says, sorry, actually, it's from the BBC. Yeah, sorry, forgive me. If we can get that on my screen as well. Thanks, guys. It says, Man United co-owner Ratcliffe flies in for Amorim talks. So that's from the BBC. It's been reported everywhere. It's been reported by Laurie in The Athletic. There's a story in The Athletic that says Manchester United co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe flew into the club's training ground by helicopter on Thursday for a series of meetings, including with the team's head coach, Ruben Amorim. United sources, speaking anonymously, as they are not authorised to speak publicly on the matter, insisted Ratcliffe's visit to Carrington was long planned and included time with Amorim. However, the team's form was on the agenda and Ratcliffe was seeking to work through these issues with Amorim at the club. And it goes on to talk about the troubled start we've had, all the problems we've got, everything else. I mean, look, these talks might have been planned, but I think we've got something else. Ignore me. These talks might have been planned, but there's no doubt, whether they're planned or not, that they are going to be talking about what is going on at Manchester United. They are going to be talking about the mess that Manchester United are in at the minute. I know it's not beyond salvageable because we're only, how many games is it into the Premier League season? Is it 4 games? I forget. I think, we've had Arsenal, Fulham, Burnley, and City. So it's 4 games in. It's not like it's the end of the world. Obviously, the Grimsby game was an absolute disaster. There's no sugarcoating that. But there's still lots and lots of time to salvage this season and turn it around. But it is getting worrying because the City game was particularly annoying. We didn't really turn up, if we're being brutally honest. Yes, the Burnley game was a win. There's a positive one. The Arsenal game, you can look at the performance. The Fulham game, it was a bit okay. The Grimsby game I've already mentioned. However, when you look at this coupled with what happened last season and look at the direction of the club and look at whether the results are good enough and look at whether you can sort of say, yes, we are moving forward, then that's when it gets a little bit tricky because apparently, according to these reports, there's certain data that the club can look at and go, look at the data, look at the chances we're creating. Yes, there's positives there. However, there are certain aspects of it that aren't positive, including the results. Call me old-fashioned, but whilst data is great and all the rest of it and XG and we all love all that, it's nice when you actually win football matches, isn't it? It's nice if the data is we've won more games than we've lost or we've scored more goals than the opposition. And at the minute, Manchester United just ain't doing that. I just want to let what everyone thinks because there's certain sections of the fan base that go, look, he inherited a mess. We've got to back the manager. We can't keep sacking managers. He has got rid of some of the, the so-called bomb squad. He is moving this club forward. He is doing things behind the scenes he needs to do. And the sort of flip side to that is the results haven't been good enough. They've not been good enough since he took over. 8 wins, I think, is it, in 31 games or whatever. He's 17th in the league table of the 17 teams that have been in the Premier League since he arrived. That is not good enough. That is a shambles. So I can see both sides of it. My worry is we're getting into this part now where it almost feels like we're in must-win territory. Like if we lose to Chelsea, now the rumours are, the reports are that if we lose to Chelsea, he's not going to lose his job. But if we lose to Chelsea, people are going to look at it and go, come on, when do you say enough is enough? And it's more pressure on this manager. And he's someone that wears his heart on his sleeve. He's someone that talks about the pressure. He's someone that acknowledges the pressure. And he's someone that sort of almost insinuates several times since he's been at Old Trafford that he's ready to walk away. Now, people go, he's never going to walk away from a huge payout. Well, he might do if he thinks it's for the greater good. And when I say the greater good, in terms of his career, Santa Knox says, surely they'll have talked about whatever situation United were in previous meetings, but face-to-face meetings are different, aren't they? When you're in the room together, I think that's a little bit different. And I don't think, and you're not going to sit in a room as well and just not talk about what is going on at Manchester United and where we're at. I can't see that happening. Obviously, that's got to be, whether it's pre-planned or not, you're going to discuss it. Of course you are. You're a guy who's put in hundreds of millions of pounds into this football club. You're in your 70s and Manchester United are struggling. The last game we had was the Manchester derby where we got turned over, where Sir Jim Ratcliffe was there as well. All the footage and the pictures of him sat there in the stands. So I think they are going to obviously discuss what is going on and whether it's good enough. And I think it'd be amazing if they didn't. And I just don't understand how it's not getting worrying. I think even if you think, yes, we still back Ruben Amorim, yes, he's still our guy, you've still got to be concerned. You've got to be a little bit concerned about some of these stats. The worst start we've had at Manchester United since 1992-93. That's a stat that it's just, it's another one that Ruben Amorim's probably going to get questioned about. I think the general feeling with INEOS is they still back him. He's still their guy. But you look at the games coming up, Chelsea, is it Brentford, Sunderland, then it's a trip to Anfield. These do feel like, it feels like a real seminal part or seminal time for Manchester United and for Ruben Amorim. Let me know what you think. Dan United 94 says, Jay, as part owner of Manchester United, why haven't you been invited to these country talks? That's a good point. I'm a part owner in Manchester United. I should have been front and centre. Miss Man United says, I'm so desperate for him to make some miraculous turnaround. I am as well. I want him to turn things around. I like Ruben Amorim. I think he's, he comes across well in press conference. He's got that charisma. You can feel it almost when you're in the room with him. However, you have to win football matches. Now, like I've said, we're only at the beginning of the season. There's plenty of games left to turn this around. The Grimsby one was bad because it's a trophy. It's a potential trophy that's out the window. However, if you can start winning football matches in the league, get us moving back up that table, then all will be well. He just needs to get some wins before we go to Anfield. You can't be going into Anfield or into that game at Anfield on the back of a load of losses, because that could be, that if you go to Anfield and get turned over. Sal Busser says, but realistically, who can you get to replace Ruben at this stage of the season? Good question. Let me know in the comments in the chat. I think some of the names being mentioned, we mentioned this yesterday, are the likes of Iriola, Glasner, Silva. I mean, Glasner I quite like. He's a good manager. He's just won the FA Cup. Done a decent job at Crystal Palace. Iriola's done a very good job at Bournemouth. But are those managers that get you excited? Marco Silva's done a good job at Fulham, but he's someone who's been around a little while. Is he someone who you look at and you think, yeah, he'd come into Manchester United and get everyone, rally the troops? Do you go backwards? Do you bring in a manager who's been here before? A player like some people saying bring back Ole? Is that something you'd be advocating for? Let me know what you think. Hit that like button as well, please, people. Let's talk about Marcus Rashford, because Marcus Rashford scored last night 2 goals, second of which against Newcastle was a fantastic goal. And it's already, the rumours, the reports, it already some sort of aims shots at Ruben Amorim, because, you can see it there from John Cross, and he says Marcus Rashford set his heart on Barcelona, and his second goal proves he belongs there, incredible mindset. This was supposed to be Newcastle's night, but Rashford owned it. What on earth must Manchester United be thinking? Because that adds to the sort of the problems of Ruben Amorim almost, because then this is narrative, and it's not just John Cross in the Mirror. Other people are saying it, like, what is going on? Could Ruben Amorim not have got a tune out of Marcus Rashford? Look at the talent he's got. There's that stat now. Marcus Rashford scored as many goals against Premier League teams this season as more than any other Manchester United player. It's not a great look. I know it's sort of skewed in it slightly because A, he wasn't in the Premier League, and B, he's playing for a different club. He's not at Manchester United. But it just adds to this air of the pressure being on Ruben Amorim. Everything not being great. Even when United aren't playing, it still somehow becomes a stick with which to beat Ruben Amorim with. Now, I've spoken about Marcus Rashford probably more than I've spoken about any player since we started doing the channel. I think it was right that he moved on. I think it obviously wasn't working with him and the manager, and it would have been insane at the time to back Marcus Rashford and get rid of the manager. Also, let's not forget, Marcus Rashford gave an interview with Henry Winter where he said he wanted a new challenge after he was dropped from the Manchester derby Etihad last season. So it wasn't just all one way. It wasn't just like Ruben Amorim said, look, you need to go. Obviously, Ruben Amorim wanted him done, but wanted him gone. But Marcus Rashford had given an interview where he said he wanted to move as well. So I understand that it was right. The issue you've got is no one would care if United were playing well. No one would care if United were winning and scoring goals. People point out because we're not. People point out and going, we ain't scoring any goals. We didn't score enough goals last season. Marcus Rashford's now gone to one of the biggest clubs in the world and he's banging him in the Champions League. Why can't he, why couldn't he have worked at Manchester United? And it adds to this narrative, doesn't it, of a manager who's just under a lot of pressure. Whitterbird says it's a shame that McTominay isn't getting the attention he deserves. Even losing yesterday, spoke nothing but good things. Proper professional. Again, it's this whole thing about every player that sort of leaves is having some sort of success. And then it becomes a question, why couldn't that have worked with us? Now, I know the McTominay one is nothing to do with Ruben Amorim because Scott McTominay left before Ruben Amorim arrived. It just adds to this air of Manchester United being a bit of a mess. Manchester United not being conducive to playing well, at the club, and even good players and players that have been here all their lives end up leaving and doing better elsewhere. Now, with McTominay, I think there was a reasonable sort of, motive for him to leave from the club and for him. I think that whilst he'd been a good servant over the years, I think there was always that element of, okay, if everyone's fit, does he get in? If he is a 10, at the time you had Bruno Fernandes there, is he going to play over Bruno Fernandes? When we tried him as a 6 with the whole McFred thing, there was varying degrees of success there. Probably wasn't best suited to that. He did have a purple patch, didn't he, in Erik ten Hag's last full season, where McTominay was banging in goals for a little while, and I thought he did a very, very good job in the FA Cup final. I'll keep going on about it, but that job he did on Rodri went under the radar a little bit, but it was phenomenal, and we wouldn't have won that game without him doing such a good job. So I do think he deserves credit there. I understood, though, why it was like, looked at as, look, we can afford to lose him. The problem you've got is it felt very much, though, and this is what we were being sort of told, that Scott McTominay moving in enabled us to get Manuel Ugarte, and Manuel Ugarte so far hasn't done much, has he, in a United shirt? And you look at what Scott McTominay's doing for Napoli, Ballon d'Or nominee and winning the Scudetto and scoring a load of goals, it just feels like, again, just United being all over the gaff and making mistakes or making moves that don't really work out. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about the Marcus Rashford thing. Let me know what you think about McTominay. Let me know what you think about Ruben Amorim. I want to hear from you guys because it almost feels like we're in this game-by-game basis. If we win on the weekend, everyone will be like, yeah, everything's all right. If we lose, it'll be like, well, the manager's the issue or the manager's got to go. That's just how it works at the minute because we're sort of in this stage where every game feels like a must-win. And it's untenable that. We just need a run of games where we can put a bit of a run together, cool some of the pressure and start moving forward because you can't just have it every week where it's like, oh, if he loses, is he gonna go? That's just completely untenable. Let me know what you think. Doc Ross says, hello, Jay. Nishan says, Amorim won't change the club if he doesn't shut up and change tactics to suit the players. McSauce was always a good squad player, says Jacoya Trot. We should move Ugarte on in the summer, says Real recognises Real. These fan channels are part of the problem, says Hensel Bitsit. It's all views and clicks, creating an online storm with not even half the info of what is really going on. Hensel Bitsit, I can't agree with that at all. If you're talking about this fan channel, we've backed pretty much every manager since he's been at the club. We've backed Ruben Amorim, and many people online aren't doing. And I think that if you look at the history of Full-Time Devils and of Stretford Paddock, we've always been very supportive of the managers, of the players, but we're not going to sit and pretend that certain results are good enough. We're not MUTV. I'm not going to sit and say everything is rosy. Yes, you can look at the positive aspects of anyone's tenure, but you can also criticise them when they get things wrong, or you can say when you don't agree with something, which is what we do on this channel. I don't think we've ever had an agenda or been part of the problem. I certainly wouldn't agree with that, and I think if anyone who's watched us over the years will know that as well. Tez Ales says, I'm dreading the Anfield game. Dan United 94 says, I am as well. I can't even look that far ahead, to be honest with you. We only have 2 DMs at the club, Casemiro and Ugarte. Kobe and the rest are all 10s. Salisu, Mohamed, Ginjiri says, forget about Rashford. He is deceiving himself. He doesn't have manners. His problem is selfish attitude. What he failed to do at Manchester United is cooperating with teammates to work as a team. Thank you, Santa Note says the usual all fan cameras are the same prejudice crap. Yeah, it's just not true. It's like saying all fans are the same. We're not. We're different. Nathan Parkinson said, what's the story behind moving from Full-Time Devils to Stretford Paddock? Me, Howson, McCullough and Joe, we all used to be on Full-Time Devils. We all decided to get together. We bought the channel. We rebranded it as Stretford Paddock, and here we are. Ayush Farmer says, fan channels, the good ones, have been the only source of sanity, actually. Traditional media and Twitter make my blood boil. Also, as well, don't forget, this channel, it's your channel as much as mine. Get involved in the chat in the comments. If you've got something you want to say say it. Let us know what you think. If you've got a different opinion to me, share it with me. Get involved in the chat right now, because I will read out your comments, even if they're critical of the club, or if they're praising the club or the manager, whatever. You've got the opportunity. This is an open forum to let us know what you think. And I think the fan base is pretty divided at the minute. I speak to a lot of people who back Ruben Amorim, and I speak to some who've lost faith. This is where we're at. And I think that is just the situation we're in because of the results. It's not rocket science. I think if the results had been better this season, if we'd have hit the ground running, even if we'd have won that game against Arsenal on the opening day, which, to be honest with you, we probably deserved to win, then I think a lot of people would be like quite positive towards Ruben Amorim. However, we didn't, despite having a good performance. And then you get a draw at Fulham, which doesn't really silence any critics. And then I don't want to keep repeating myself when I talk about the Grimsby game as well. We've got a story about the players being frustrated as well. If we can share that. It says here, this is from Manchester Evening News. Manchester United, I think this is Samuel Luckhurst in the Evening News. It says Manchester United players frustrated by missed opportunity. 1 win in 5 games out of the League Cup and 14th in the Premier League is exactly the start Manchester United could not afford. Manchester United players are concerned how swiftly the mood has changed at the club following 2 defeats from their opening 4 Premier League fixtures. United lost at home to Arsenal in the opening game. Yeah, we've been through all this. And City, we lost on Sunday. And the League Cup campaign ended with a humiliating penalty shootout loss to League 2 Grimsby Town. Dressing room sources say the mood after the derby has been particularly sombre, with United players ruining a missed opportunity against the City side that had lost their previous 2 games against Tottenham and Brighton. I agree with that. I thought City were there for the taking, and I don't really think we turned up. We have these stories all the time, don't we? And listen, whilst it's quite logical that players would be annoyed and sort of a bit miffed at what's going on at the club after a Derby Day defeat, I'd be a bit surprised if the players were like, yeah, we love it. We're happy. We've just lost to Manchester City. It's great. You'd expect the players to be a little bit frustrated. The question is, are they frustrated with the manager, with themselves? Players need to have a little bit of self-reflection here because they have to take some responsibility. I say it all the time. 2 things can be true. You can say that the manager's tactics are questionable, but you can also say the players need to do better. And I think there's an argument to be made for both of those things. However, I'm not just going to give I'm not just going to give the players a pass and say, okay, it's not on you at all. So it just depends on where you stand in terms of who you blame more. Is it equal? Do you think this manager's getting it wrong tactically? It's a big game in it on Saturday, and it's an interesting to see what he's going to do, especially with that midfield. We keep hearing about this midfield conundrum. Is Bruno Fernandes suited to play in a deeper role? Do we need to get Kobbie Mainoo in the team? Can we keep going up against teams with a 2-man midfield when they've got a 3-man midfield? Now, he pushed back, didn't he, Ruben Amorim, after the City game when he was asked about Bruno Fernandes playing deeper. And he said, look, at the Arsenal game when we were up against Odegaard, Declan Rice and Zubimendi, we did well. Are we worried? Do you think that can work again against Chelsea? They've got a pretty strong midfield, haven't they? The likes of Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo. What do you reckon? Hit that like button, please, people. Let me know what you think. I want to know what you guys think. Lewis Bowers says, I appreciate Ruben as a style of play. However, with a group of players in particular, the midfield that don't fully fit his system, it's beyond me why he can't adapt to what suits them until said point. I think they might have to do that. I think he could adapt until he gets another midfielder in. He could say, he could explain it and say, look, I have a system, but with the players I've got, I think right now we just have to sort of cut our cloth accordingly, have that extra man in midfield. Maybe when you get someone like a Carlos Baleba, you can go back to a sort of 2-man midfield. It's just not quite working at the minute. Nishan says, Arsenal midfield is not strong and fast, so Bruno can handle that. Doc Rock says, the only thing Chelsea has is speed on the wings. Glenn Nunn says, Ruben's tactics have proven to work. These players have not yet to do that. Gray says, Trashford fans, which is obviously the name that people give Marcus Rashford, get the hell out of here. The same guy backstabbed Man United by not performing even 10% of what he's doing in Barca. That too for 350k a week. Don't talk about that gold here anymore. Andy G says, Fergie always adapted to the teams we played against. Even during games, he could do it. Yep. Kieran Hennigan says, Palmer coming to make a statement on Saturday. Yeah, Cole Palmer. That's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? Going up against Cole Palmer. Boxing Straight Talk says, Amorim out. We'll have to wait and see what happens at the weekend. I am worried for Ruben Amorim's future. We'll see how these talks go with the the ownership. I know the plan. I don't expect him to have a talk with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and lose his job, but I do feel like these run of fixtures are going to be pivotal. They really are. And I do think when you look at it, is it Chelsea, Brentford, Sunderland, and then you go to Anfield, I think you've got to get at least 2 wins out of those 3 games. I really do. Akash K says, Jay, have we considered the club want to build an identity and DNA? What sort of defeats the idea of adapting to the opponent, doesn't it? Yeah, but you can do both. Yes, you can have an identity and a DNA. Sir Alex Ferguson had it, but he adapted to opponents. He did that when he needed to. And he did it when his job was on the line. Let's not forget that. I spoke about this, and I spoke about it to Sir Alex Ferguson when I got the opportunity to chat to him about that game against Nottingham Forest, where people were saying, this goes back to 1990, I think it was, 1989-90 season, where it was like, look, if we lose to Nottingham Forest, we're out of the cup, there's a good chance Sir Alex Ferguson could lose his job. Now, people have pushed back. I think Sir Bobby Charlton said it wasn't necessarily the case and he would have been given more time. However, there was pressure on him. We all know that. And when he needed to, he could adapt and he could change it. When he didn't have players available, he could change it. And he said about the injuries he had going into that game and he had to change certain things. You can do that and still keep an identity, still keep a DNA, still keep your philosophy. I've seen successful United teams adapt all the time. Ten Hag did it in his final sort of full season at Wembley. What was more important at Wembley? Winning that football match or sticking to your principles or whatever it was? Winning that football match. So he changed it. He brought in Rasmus Højlund and he played a certain way for the big chunk of that season. He pushed Scott McTominay further up the pitch for most of that season when McTominay had played. And what did he do for the Manchester Derby in the FA Cup final? He played Bruno as a false 9 and he had Scott McTominay sit on Rodri. He changed his tactics and we won. Now, would you rather if he stuck to his guns and we lost? I think you can do both, man. And I think we're getting to the stage now with Ruben Amorim where the most important thing for him is to win the football match in front of him. I really do think that. I think he's under all sorts of pressure now. And I think he's got to just get these wins. Get these wins and you can say, look, we're not quite there yet in terms of the way I want to play and the personnel I need to play it. But in the meantime, this is what we have to do. We have to adapt. There's nothing wrong with that. And let's not forget, within the games at times, we have adapted, we have changed. I've seen there's been 4 at the back during the game. I've seen the times in the game where we've set up like a 4-4-2 during the game. It happens. These players change, they move up. You've seen Matthijs de Ligt in particular move up almost into midfield during the game. So let's not pretend we have to stick to this regimented system constantly. You can change it. And I think right now, Ruben Amorim is at the stage where he's got to do whatever he can do to get the wins. Let me know. Boxing Straight Talk says, exactly, Jay. He's unwilling to adapt, got to go. Red Lad says, Trashford, grow up, yeah. Dan United 94 says, Jay, how nervous were you speaking to Fergie? Unbelievable. So I was scared at first in case he was a bit funny with me for whatever reason. He wasn't. He was ace and it was the highlight of my career. Grace says, starting Mainu is not adaptation. It's very logical thinking. Those two kind of go hand in hand, in my opinion. Adaptation and logical thinking. I think I just love Kobbie Mainoo, mate. That little cameo at the Etihad just reminded everyone what we're missing. The question is, can you have just Kobbie Mainoo and another midfielder in there, or do you need 3 in midfield? Are you going to do that, or can you have it as sort of Mainoo and your guy with Bruno just in front? I don't know. I think this is the question that I expect Ruben Amorim to get asked today. Actually, he's got a press conference today. And I think he will be getting asked about the midfield, about Kobbie Mainoo, about Bruno Fernandes, about whether he'd be willing to change. These questions keep coming up again and again and again, and they're going to keep coming up until you consistently win football matches. Graham Sharkey, who's been a member of the first team for 27 months, says, no one else out there to come in and take over. Leave the crisis talks till Christmas and see how we're going by then. Up the paddock. Nishan says he needs to love the players the way he talks to Sky Sports. I don't understand why he can't change when everyone, even rival fans, say the same thing. Brown Arova says Bruno can replace Cunha for now, then use Casemiro and Mainoo in midfield. He said that twice. Yeah, potentially. There's options there, isn't there? What Ruben Amorim does, whether he does that, whether he's willing to adapt, I'm not so sure. We'll have to wait and see. But it is getting at a critical point now. I don't want to be melodramatic. But it does feel like we're in that stage where we're in must-win territory. And you know why we say this as well? Because we've been here before. We have. We've seen it before, haven't we, as United fans? You can almost sense it. You can feel it. You know when the narrative starts coming out in certain stories in the media. You know how it's going to go. First of all, you're going to have certain players, or there's going to be rumours and reports that the players are questioning tactics. We've had that. Then you're going to have other managers linked with the job. We've had that. Then you're going to have that the board are backing him. We've had that. Then you're going to have certain things about the board are backing him, but they are concerned about results. We've had that. Yeah. Then you're going to have the sections, big sections of the fan base. And I'm not talking about one or two fans. I'm talking about big section of the fan base who get to the point where they've had enough. And we're getting there with that. The fan base becomes fractured. And one thing you got to remember is Sir Jim Ratcliffe is probably going to be sat at Old Trafford on Saturday afternoon. And he's someone like the Glazers couldn't even find Old Trafford if he dropped him off in Manchester City Centre and gave him an Uber. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe will be there. He'll be at the game and he'll hear it. If United get turned over or lose and the fans are disgruntled or the fans are, I don't think there'll be a chance of Ruben Amorim out. I don't think that'll happen, but there's boos or whatever. Is that going to get in his head? You wonder, don't you? He's only human. And also with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I know at the moment we're hearing that the INEOS and Ratcliffe are behind Amorim and they like what he's doing and they get it and all that. But this is a guy who's put a lot of money into this club, who wants to turn this club around, who believes he can turn this club around, and also isn't going to be around for the next 50 years. This guy isn't a teenager, yeah? He's going to want to see United moving forward over the next few years. He's going to want to see that. Just before we wrap up as well, I want to talk about the stadium, because I think there was an interview with one of the guys behind the stadium. Is it Norman Foster? Yeah, Norman Foster on the master plan for the new stadium. And he says it's incredible master plan for the new stadium. It's interesting, right? Because a lot of people looked at the new stadium and this Trident thing and they weren't too keen on it. I think it looks all right. I'm not massively mad on it, and there's people comparing it to a circus tent. However, a few people that I've spoken to, there's been reports on that just take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt that this is how it ends up. It might not end up as those pictures showed this stadium. That happens a lot when you announce things, when you announce new buildings. Sometimes they get changed. Even the 100,000 seater capacity might not happen. It might end up being closer to 90,000. So we'll have to wait and see how this all pans out. I want to see Manchester United in a new stadium. I've been saying this for years, even when people were sort of hammering me for it. I just think Old Trafford is crumbling. I don't know if it's fit for purpose. It's, 100 years old? I think it might be time to move into a new stadium. And I like the idea of having this sort of complex, if you will, where there's a stadium, where there's other things around it. I like the idea of regenerating an area and bringing in jobs. I'm all for all that, but we'll have to wait and see how it looks, because the designs are one thing. Is it going to look like that when it is built? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Doc Rock says we need a full, slow rebuild and less duct tapes. Marie said he scored 2 goals, calm down. I'm guessing that's about Marcus Rashford. It's not even that deep, really. We know what happened with Marcus Rashford. We know why he's not at the club. Sorry to go backwards onto Marcus Rashford thing. It's just this narrative now. Everything is sort of seems to be a bit of a dig at Ruben Amorim, and everything seems to be one of those reasons where you go, oh, it doesn't look good for Amorim, does it? It's like what we keep hearing in the media this morning with the Marcus Rashford brace in the Champions League. Is like, why couldn't Ruben Amorim get a tune out, Marcus? We'll wait and see what happens with the stadium. I'm excited, but I'm also, not skeptical, just wary that sometimes these plans don't quite come to fruition. So we'll wait and see. It'll be interesting to see over the next few years just how these plans move forward. It'll be interesting to see how Ruben Amorim moves this club forward in the next few years, if he's even here in the next few years, even if he's here in the next few months, because the pressure is on Ruben Amorim. Whether you think that's right or not, it's just where we're at the minute. We'll be hearing from the manager later on today, I think, ahead of the Chelsea game. So we'll have an update on what he's got to say about the situation, about his talks with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And I'm guessing he might even get asked about Marcus Rashford as well. So it'll be interesting to hear what he's got to say with that. I'm going to be back later on today with Stephen Alson for The Brew. If you're not doing so already, make sure you are subscribing to the channel also as well. Sorry, I should have put a link in the chat, because we have got some Stretford Paddock merchandise as well. If I can find that. I can't find a link. Hang on a minute. I'm having a stinker there. So I'll put a little link in the chat there. Go over to the Stretford Paddock store. Loads of people have been getting our merchandise lately. We've got hoodies and sweatshirts and t-shirts and all that stuff. All Stretford Paddock stuff. So there's a link in the chat. Go and check that out. We're going to be back later on with The Brew. Me, Stephen Alson for that one. So make sure you join us 4 o'clock live later on today. I'm Jay Moy. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.